Welcome to Local History, Legends, and Lore. I'm Julie Lugo Cerra, your host, and today our guests are Jacqueline and Charles McCain. Welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
For sure. What we have to talk about today is how you came to this area in 1943, as I understand it, raised your family here, and I think the biggest interest that most people have is how you became our mentors for community involvement and activism, because you two are undoubtedly the consummate couple who have remained active in this community for a long time. Tell us how you got to Culver City, and Jackie, why don't you start, because you came from a further distance.
Yes, I came from Kansas City, Missouri, and I always call it Harry Truman country because I walked across his pasture to get to school during first and second grade. And I came to California after I had completed 2 years of teachers college, because in Missouri at that time a teacher could not be married. So I decided to get my education in California. I had 2 cousins here. So one of them was working right around the corner on 54th and Broadway at a Magnaflux company. And then, of course, I found out that if you're out of state, your tuition is much higher, so I went to work. And at that time, they had these entertainment books.
I think they still have them, don't they?
Yes, they still have them. And back in Missouri, you didn't wear slacks if you went out. So my cousin had on slacks. We were going down to the Olympic, I think. And, of course, I argued with her that she should wear a dress. We were standing on the street corner and waiting on the streetcar, and I saw there was a dance hall over the place I worked. And I saw 2 uniformed Army men going up the steps, and I thought, well, fiddle, she can go downtown by herself. I'm not going with her. I had a coupon in my book. So upstairs I went.
So you went to the dance hall.
And they had what they called a doghouse in the middle of the just a railing where they put people that didn't dance.
This is in the middle of the dance floor?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I kept dancing with Charles's buddy who did the polka until I was worn out. And Charles ended up in the doghouse. So I decided to get him out of the doghouse. Maybe he'd dance some other way besides the polka. And that's how we met.
My gosh, and so that was in 1943.
Yes.
And are you still in the doghouse, Charles? Or
Now and again.
different one, huh? That's terrific. Charles, you were raised somewhat locally. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm a native Californian, born in Pomona. Went to school in San Bernardino, and then graduated to when I left home, came to Los Angeles, and worked. Gentleman that my uncle met took me under his wing to go to different studios and different venues to sell popcorn and beer. And at this point, my mom and dad were divorced, and my dad would come out and try and get mom to reconciliate. At one point, he told me, he said that he found a place that he thought maybe they'd give me a job. So he took me to a cabinet shop. I was interviewed, and they hired me. and I worked at this, it was called Best Cabinet Company, and the gentleman that was in charge of it took a liking to me, and he taught me many things in the way of machinery and cabinetry, and I worked there until I was drafted in the Army, and of course Jacqueline told you how we met, and I was in the Army at that time, and
So then, did you move to Culver City, or the Culver City area right then? In fact, we have something up on the screen. I think
yes.
that's the area that you moved to. You were just outside of the city on what street?
On Utopia.
Ah, there must be something in that. That was the area where there was an airport, and Mesmer and those streets were just beyond Culver City, and Utopia was one of them?
Yes, Utopia, only a block and a half long. And of course, at that time, there was always, every rain, Slauson and Sepulveda cars would get stuck in.
I have an old picture of cars stuck on Slauson.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we farmed the Sawtell Basin homeowners. We got the Centinela flood control channel in, and that kept Slauson and Sepulveda free of the heavy water that flowed into the Bologna Creek. We also got sewers in, streets paved in the old Mesmer track. We accomplished quite a bit.
Sounds like it, and I guess that was probably the very beginning of your political
Well,
career.
I have to tell you that when I was 16 in Kansas City in high school, I went downtown to the hotel when they were having a Democratic meeting, and I wanted to join. But a 16-year-old was too young at that time.
So you'd been trying for a long time.
Yes, so I've been at it for quite some time.
That's terrific. And then you have a family, and didn't the family start right about that time?
Well, when our daughter, Kathleen, or Rusty as she became known because of her red hair, was ready to go to school, we discovered that we may have had a Culver City mailing address, but we were not in the LA or the Culver City school district. So that is one of the reasons we moved over to Lafayette Place.
And that's the area that you moved to. There's the Culver Hotel in the middle, and then you moved off to the right where the pretty trees are, as I recall.
Yes.
Okay, and then right behind the Culver Hotel, you can see Culver Grammar School, which is, I guess, where you wanted to send the kids to school.
That's right.
That's amazing. So by that time, by the time you moved there, you had all 3 children?
Rod was just a year old.
Okay, so you had Kathleen, who was named Rusty, and then you had Chuck Jr.
and
then
Roderick
Rod.
John.
Okay. And they went to Linwood House School, or not Linwood House School, they went to Culver Grammar School.
Culver Grammar
School.
Okay, and I brought a picture that is way before they went to school there, but that was the old school, and it was a beautiful old structure. And who was the principal?
Lynn Howe.
Okay, so, and the reason I asked you that is because when this school was torn down, they built a new school in the next block, and they named it for Lynn Howe, Linwood E. Howe. I've never had anybody who knew him very well tell me about him, though. Can you tell me a little bit about Mr. Howe?
Oh, I thought he was an excellent principal, mainly because he associated with the children. The kids knew him, and this was a good thing. That we also started out at that time with the children getting to know a policeman. I think it was Officer Wassiter that came once a week to the different classes, and this to me was good.
I remember when my daughter went to Lynn House School, she came home one day and told me that she had lunch with a principal. And of course, when I was raised, having lunch with a principal, I thought, oh my goodness, what did she do?
What did he do wrong?
No, yeah, and it turns out that that was the reward. So they must have continued in Lynn Howe's vision, I guess, of getting to know the kids. And the principal did that, I think, once a week for the best table in the cafeteria.
And the greatest thing was the Halloween parties that they always had, and we manned the hot dog stand, and Lynn Howe, he always had several hot dogs, and we very look forward to him at these celebrations.
Sounds like he had a lot of fun. Now, you got involved in the PTA there, I bet.
Yes, I was PTA president. At the same time, we had an American Field Service student living with us, Jennifer King, and it's really Clark King. And she enjoyed all of our goings on, and that was our first fiesta parade when she was here.
That was 1951. Or the first one that you participated in?
The first one we participated in.
Okay.
Charles made a covered wagon, and the girls dressed up in old costumes.
Fun. And you're still at the fiesta?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, still working.
We've been every year that they've had a booth for, 16 years now.
For the homeowners? Right. Okay, and now we have a picture of your family, a little older. Do you want to identify those folks?
Yes, of course. The redhead in the back on the right is Kathleen, or Rusty as she became known.
And didn't she have something to do with the teen center?
Oh, yes. Along with Sid Cronenthal, the two of them got the teen center started.
Oh my gosh.
And
Okay, and there's Jackie and Charles, and then give me the rest.
okay, Chuck Jr. and Marilyn in front, and Roderick and his wife Jennifer, and little, I can't think of.
You just can't see it close enough from here. And one of their children.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. And so the kids still live in Southern California, as I understand it?
No.
No?
Kathleen lives in Evanston, Illinois. And I'll have to tell you the funny about that one. She happened to, they bought a historical house. Turns out Sid Cronenthal's sister lived right next door.
Oh my gosh.
So this was really a coincidence.
Oh, I guess so. Now, Kathleen is the one who's traveling all over a lot, though, too.
Oh, yes.
She did some amazing work after college. But while we've got this on the monitor, let's take a look at that. You mentioned AFS and being active in it. You had two
We had two
students.
girls.
Okay.
And on the left is Fleur with her husband Norbert.
And Fleur came from?
She came from Holland. And Norbert she met on the bus going back to New York to go home. And Norbert was German and Fleur was Jewish, and this was right after the war.
Oh, golly.
And her father wasn't very happy, but they have all grown to love it.
Oh, that's great.
One another.
And that was Chuck Jr. and his wife on the right.
Yes, Marilyn and Chuck.
So now,
pretty cool.
Fleur is Fleur the one who you used to take to council meetings?
Yes.
Okay.
Fleur went with me to council
And what was the
meetings.
end result of that?
And the end result of that is she got involved in politics and is now a councilwoman in Greenwich.
Oh.
And she sends us, well, they have been back here, I think, 5 times. They have 2 boys. And Sebastian just graduated from high school, so he's in college now.
And the other AFS student
Jennifer
came from?
Australia, and we went there for her wedding.
Oh my gosh. That must have been an experience.
It was.
It was an experience.
We were there for Christmas and Boxing Day.
Oh,
You know,
God.
you always hear about Boxing Day.
Well, this is all about the cultural exchange.
Yeah.
How appropriate. And how is she doing?
Oh, she's one that goes trail walking and goes to the, oh, this is our fiesta picture.
Still at the fiesta, that's what it should say on the bottom, huh?
Yes, yes. Charles painted the cardboard house in the back, and
We won first prize that day.
yes,
Did you?
yes.
Did you?
Culver City, paradise in Culver City.
Well, and this last year, what were you selling, Charles? You were selling ice cream?
Oh, last year was the ice cream sale. I built an ice cream box to hold the ice cream in, and we were ice cream selling.
Well, it helps to have somebody with these kinds of skills, see. So you guys have been real active in the Homeowners Association for many, many years. And Charles, I can see that you were helping at the Historical Society. That's Carolyn Cole, who was the secretary at the Senior Center at the time and who was real active in the organization before she moved away after retirement. This is, I think, in '92. You were helping to unpack the costumes. Culver City has something like 65 costumes that were rescued by Sid Croninthal, in fact, when MGM sold off the property department over there. And so every once in a while we're able to get them out, and you were helping as usual. That's pretty nice. Tell me about some of the other activities that you've gotten involved in. Charles, you?
Well, my activities really started when the boys were growing up there. I became into the scouting program. I was a Cub Scout leader. I was a Boy Scout scoutmaster. And in '72, I formed a Sea Scout ship, and we called it Ship 72. And this was a real good program, and I had a campaign manager called Phil Massey, probably know him. And during that time, we built 13 Sabot sailboats in his backyard as a summer program, because he and I had decided that in order for the boys to learn how to sail and do it competitively, we formed a regatta and built these boats so that we could have competition in our own marina, and it was very successful. And as a matter of fact, one of my Sea Scouts went to the Nationals in Chicago area, and he won second place in the sailing regatta there. I was really real happy about that. And
So he was just a street over and one down, as I recall.
street over and one down. Yeah, and Phil Massey was the one that that helped put the Sea Scout base where it is now, there in Marina del Rey. And it really started when my stepdad, who worked for Todd Shipyards,
There's a picture on
he
the
got his
screen.
people, they were going to abandon a water barge out in the channel, and he cajoled Todd Shipyards to tow that into the Marina del Rey and anchored it there at one of the channels, and that became the original Sea Scout base in Marina del Rey.
So now, where would that be on this
It would be
photo?
way at the end of the channel, a little bit to the right-hand side of that.
I see.
And Subsequently, Phil Massey got an architect and several other people together, and they got George Pardee to build the Sea Scout base that now is in existence there at Marina del Rey.
Well, that's quite an accomplishment.
It was, we were very proud of that, and Phil Massey was a real engineer. He got these people together and got an awful lot of good work done.
Had a lot of interesting people in the neighborhood. He lived right up the street from Mike Tellefson,
Yes.
who was the city attorney and on the
yes.
city council,
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And what about Sea Cares?
Sea Scares, that's our emergency communications situation. In case there is an emergency in Culver City, and that it's formed by ham radio operators, and we have a headquarters or a main station in Fire Station number 1 that they have given us space in there and equipment that in the event of an emergency, it can be manned, and it's completely self-sustained. It doesn't require any outside help or any outside power. So in the case of emergencies, communications can be established and help, mainly to help the fire and the police department in the event of emergencies.
And then you're involved in CERT as well.
And CERT is the other part, is also connected to the fire department.
Okay, that's great. And then in the meantime, Jackie, when you moved to Culver City and you moved to the area that you were in, it was R2, and your first work on in the neighborhood area had to do with the zoning, didn't it?
Yes, it did. We found out that our city council was trying to zone it C4, which is heavy density, and we had purchased the property not only because of the school district, but to build a house in the back for my mother and stepfather. And as a result, we have 2 houses, and everyone can have 2 houses in our area. The R4 did not go through.
Okay, so then later on you ended up on the Planning Commission.
Yes, after the kids were out of school, I decided I had been to City Hall long enough, and I applied for the Planning Commission. And I'm trying to think. Jim Bulgarides, I think, signed my paper, and
Who was on the council at the time, and then
yes.
he served a number of years. He served twice in the 70s and again
Later
later.
on.
So he signed your papers, and who else was on the council at the time?
I think Richard Pachman
Okay.
and Ron Perkins. Ron Perkins, by the way, even though he moved away, still belongs to the Culver City homeowners.
And you know he's still on the council, not here, but where he lives.
Yes.
In La Quinta.
He
Yes.
sure does. Yeah, I heard from him not too long ago. That's great. So what was the hottest issue that you had to deal with on the Planning Commission?
Oh, apartments trying to become condos.
That's the condo conversion issue.
bit. And you know, some of those apartments had been, 20 years old. And then to convert them to a condo without repair, that...
And then they also have shared plumbing, which is an issue too.
Oh, yes. That was one thing that I worked on, and I put in the requirement that they put in copper plumbing. And one of the developers came back and thanked me afterwards because he said it was certainly much easier to do than to do the galvanized pipe.
Oh, I can imagine it was better for everybody. Oh, there's a picture. And if you take a look closely to Charles Lapel, you'll see an M, and it's the International No symbol that was the No on M committee not long ago. And that was something that you folks worked on. In fact, I think you were the headquarters.
Yes.
Pretty much. You want to
yes.
tell us a little bit about that?
Well, this was when we wanted to put in our theater downtown and develop downtown. And most of my neighborhood did not want it because they said there'll be traffic and strangers in our neighborhood. So we worked with really everyone from every part of the city. It was a very good thing to see so many from
all divergent types
Yes.
of the political spectrum.
I remember seeing Mike Balkman sitting over
Mike
there. And
Balkman.
Democrats and Republicans all together
Steve
sharing
Rose
a
and Alan
common issue.
Yes,
Sure.
I think
Carol
that's
Gross.
how Alan and Steve Rose became such friends at that
Yeah,
particular time.
that was a wonderful experience. And of course we defeated Measuran, which was wonderful. One of the things that I have to mention to you is that I'm sure glad you're still the lady who is the only person who reads all of the EIRs in Culver City. I understand you started with Sony and you're currently working on West LA College. And although we need to wrap up now, I want you to tell me what you're working on now, what you're worried about in the city.
Oh, I'm worried about LA College not having a second entrance.
West LA?
at West LA. I think it should definitely go over the hill to La Cienega,
So-
because that's where 61% of the students come from, and the fire trucks
Right.
and emergency equipment.
And so you're working diligently, and you have read that EIR, I presume.
Yes, and I turned it in on the proper day,
Did you?
and now there's the LAX that's due on November the 7th.
Well, there's just no lack of work for you, Jackie McCain, and obviously either for you, Charles. So we want to thank you very much for joining us today. Jackie and Charles, to many of us, are the wonderful mentors reminding us continually that involvement in the community pays off with a better community. Thanks so much, and come back and talk again.